Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai. Hello, listeners. Today we are dropping another episode in our Chats series, but expanding the audience set to include more folks. This episode is Founder Chats, hearing from those scaling the companies themselves. In this episode, we are talking with Max Denevich, co-founder and CRO of LoyaltyPlant. Max is going to share with us the road he traveled entering into this industry, his go-to-market strategies, scaling across geographic regions, and much, much more. Well, Max, thanks for being on the show today. Thanks for being on Code Story.
Thanks for having me, Noah.
Absolutely. Before we talk about products and scale and all the things we're going to get into with your journey, tell us a bit about your path to this point. What experiences shaped the way you think about business and leadership before LoyaltyPlant?
Honestly, I believe it all started with video games. I was a serious gamer as a kid, and that's what pulled me into computers, into logic, into math. That curiosity eventually turned me into the IT. But somewhere in my first or second year of university, I wasn't wired to just code. I wanted to create things, come up with ideas, pitch them, talk about them with people. So I needed the product side. So I started to find some opportunities for me. Couldn't find that combination in just a regular job. Traditional roles were too narrow for me. You're either a marketer or a developer or a salesperson, but I wanted to touch all sides of the product at once. So I started looking at startups, figured that was like the only place for me that like a student with no experience could actually do that. So it landed me in my first story, my first startup. It was like Android TV connectors. It was early days before Google Chromecast, before smart TV, all this stuff. And it was some kind of device that turned your regular TV into Android machine. I did marketing. I did B2B sales, B2C sales, and we sold actually thousands of units, I believe, something like that. Landed one big retail deal, but the company's margins were really bad. Money ran out. And that was my first real lesson that enthusiasm doesn't pay salaries. You need revenue, real recurring revenue, or you just burn time. Yeah. And the second thing was beacon technology. It was iBeacons, Bluetooth of low energy. This was the hyperlocal marketing, proximity marketing wave, early Internet of Things types. So the idea was to connect brands, advertisers with the audiences of different mobile apps by detecting them when those users walk past the store or something like that and pushing them relevant offers in real time. It was very ambitious, very complex. It was like 3 different audiences to serve at once. It was like brands, app developers, physical retail locations. We had some pilots, had zero commercial sales again, 3 years in, money burnout again. So the pattern across both great product thinking, broken go-to-market. Learned earlier that building around technology instead of around the problem is almost always a wrong starting point. So the bigger startup is actually how I met Vas, our founder here at LoyaltyPlant. At the time he was running like early versions of LoyaltyPlant. It was some kind of multi-brand loyalty app startup. And they were using QR code scanning for customers check-in in the restaurants. I went to pitch him why you making customers scan a QR code, just put an beacon in the store and customers just tap their phone, done, much smoother experience. He said, nah, interesting idea, wrong moment, blah, blah, blah. But that conversation stuck. A couple of years later, then I was looking at what to do next and noticed that mobile apps were really becoming a real thing. It was like 2014, 15, 16, 17, restaurant loyalty, digital engagement. That whole space was like exploding. And I just remember was, and that's how I ended up at LoyaltyPlant.
Excellent. I appreciate that overview. I'd love to dive into, your entrance into this industry. At what point did you realize that you wanted to work with complex traditional industries rather than consumer apps or quote unquote easy tech? And really alongside that, why food tech and QSR, which stands for quick service restaurants? What made you believe this industry had deep structural problems worth solving with technology?
I don't think it was like deliberate choice, honestly. I just kept noticing that the biggest problems and the places there nobody was really using technology yet were all in these traditional industries like restaurants, for example, and where was the gap, real gap. And I just started searching a new place for me. It was like consumer apps were exciting, but also incredibly crowded. Everyone was building the next social thing, the next consumer product. Competition was brutal and just take all. Traditional industries like restaurants, for example, retail chains were full of the opposite problem. Massive scale, real money moving through the system, but technology adoption like 10 years behind. And the gap between what was possible and what was actually being used was enormous. And there's also something about the sales complexity that appealed to me. In consumer tech, you're chasing virality. This is good in B2B as well, but in B2B, for traditional industry, you are solving like operational problems for real people, and you can see like the impact clearly. And the rest of the industry, so while LoyaltyPlant, the rest of the industry touch billions of people every day, runs on incredible thin margins, and the relationship between the restaurant and guests like fundamentally personal, a massive scale, thin margins, human relationships at the core. Once I saw that, I just couldn't look away. It was some kind of personal frustration around like this food tech market and all these restaurants. Because as a consumer, I kept losing those punch cards, the ones that you get stamped every time you buy a coffee. And after 10 stamps, you get a free one. And I'd lose them constantly. And I thought, this is the entire loyalty strategy of most restaurant, a piece of cardboard. Yeah, and that was really interesting for me. Then the digital loyalty started appealing, apps, digital cards, point system, and that was exciting. But the loyalty programs, like the logic before them, were terrible. A coffee chain offers you like 3 cents of an ice cream cone after your, I don't know, 10th visit, and they call it loyalty. So how does that change my behavior? How does it make me feel anything about the brand? And most loyalty programs were just discount machine at bad ones. So no personalization, no journey, no reason for a customer to actually care. And on top of that was the delivery problem, because all these aggregators, like the leaders of food tech market, were absolutely sure. But again, like customer were ordering through delivery on the Eats, and restaurants like paying a huge amount of commissions, like 30% to these aggregators. And they had no idea who just bought from them. The loyalty app and the ordering experience most of the time lived in like completely different worlds. So you just collect points in store, but order delivery through a third-party aggregator, and the whole just guest journey was broken. So that's why I really love QSR, for example, because it's like the most competitive business in the world. And you are fighting for like few extra visits per month, a few extra dollars per order. And at that scale, even small improvements in how you keep customer engaged and coming back translated to millions. That's what made it real for me. Every technology decision actually like matters for them.
Sure. You saw some problems that needed to be solved, and you saw some optimization opportunities in this industry, and you went for it. That's great. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. So, what made you choose LoyaltyPlant then?
I believe the first thing that got me was the core idea behind the product. It was a B2B SaaS. It sounded really cool back then. And it also had this B2C layer, a consumer-facing app that real people actually used. And I was one of those people. I tried our clients' apps as a customer and I could feel the potential. The product was very different from what we have today. For example, no online ordering at all. None of the marketing gamification mechanics that are now our core. But the foundation was there. The idea was right. And that's rare in B2B. Then you can feel the value from the user side as well. And that tells something. Yeah, so the foundation was real. Coming from 2 startups, the product itself was the problem. This was different. There was something worth building on. It needed a lot of work. The product went through massive transformation after that, but the starting point was solid. And what wasn't really working was like the go-to-market, specifically like partnerships and international sales. Nobody had cracked it yet. And that was exactly the kind of challenge I'm drawn to. The team had mostly given up on partnership, to be honest. I remember like salespeople joking, another guy who is going to try partnerships, good luck. Yeah, and that kind of skepticism doesn't scare me at all and it motivates me. Then there was a bigger picture. The company had raised investment, but was still searching for a repeatable growth model. That's a pretty normal stage for a startup. You're not sure yet, but that uncertainty is also there. You learn the fastest. And I also already knew Vas from this beacon startup I mentioned, and I knew how he thought, what he was building toward. And that really mattered. Joining the company is also joining the person leading it. So I just believe the timing was right. Mobile apps, also digital loyalty, restaurant tech. It was all accelerating. the window was open. But I was not joining a success story. I was joining really a problem that needed solving, and that actually the more interesting opportunity.
So with LoyaltyPlant, you're often referred to as a co-founder today. How did the transition happen from an executive role to shaping the company's future at that level?
I'm not typical co-founder story. I didn't start the company in a garage. When I joined, it was already a team. There were investors. There was a product. But here's the thing. The company that exists today is a fundamentally different company from the one I joined. And it had to almost die for the transformation to happen. And the co-founder part came from being the person who chose to stay and help rebuild something new. So in the time I joined, it was a company, it was a big player on the local market, but we also raised a couple of millions of investment to spread abroad to become a real big international player. But it was a tough way. Yeah. And it was actually a situation that many startups and growth stage companies face, especially if they raised investment that haven't reached break-even yet. You just hit a wall, and that wall forces a decision from everyone in the room. So our investment was running out. Bas was very transparent with the team. It was like a couple of months after I joined the team. Roughly 6 months of runway left. And it was like two options. Close enough big deals fast with front payments to keep going, or get additional funding from existing investors. Neither was granted. And then the growth team, the real story, then the growth team, the people who could have actually driven sales and pulled us through, almost entirely left to a competitor. Then the people who are supposed to save the company leave because they don't believe it can be saved. That's a very specific feeling. And I also had an offer from that same competitor, significantly more money than I was making. But the story is I turned down the offer and stayed, not because it was like the smart financial move. Definitely was not. My girlfriend at the time actually broke up with me over this decision. She could not understand why I choose a company that might not exist in 6 months. Better salary and stability. I get it. It was not rational by any normal measure. But I believe something the people living did not, that there was a real company inside one waiting to come out. It's like a real MVP. The product needed transformation. The go-to-market needed complete rebuilding. The whole approach to the market had to change. But the partner model we'd been testing could actually work. I could feel it. And I went back to the partners. We've been building relationships with a lot of them, tried to and push them hard. We brought a couple of strong clients that moment of crisis with real upfront payments. I went back to partners with the building relationship and brought in a couple of strong clients, the real upfronts. And it wasn't a rescue, but it was enough of a signal, enough to show investors that the new model had legs. But if they gave us one more tranche, we could reach break even and grow from there. And we did. And that's really when the old company ended and the new MVP company began. Everything that came after, like the global expansion, the enterprise clients, the product we have today, that's a totally different company. And I founded that version of the company. And the decision to stay and rebuild rather than walk away is what made me a founder, not a title or a piece of paper. So sometimes the company has to almost die for the right version of it to be born. And being there for that moment and choosing it is what makes someone a founder.
Cool. So then LoyaltyPlant was close to running out of investment. What were the first decisions that fundamentally changed the company's trajectory?
Oh, that's a good one. I think what made it real for me was looking at the numbers. The company had gone through like millions of dollars in investment, and the result was a couple dozen clients outside the home market spread across a handful of countries. So that's not a struggling company. That's a model that simply doesn't work. And first decision was don't panic into the wrong move. No emergency fundraise at terrible terms, no slashing the product team, no pivoting to something completely different. The core idea had potential, but seeing it like resonate with clients. The product focus and positioning needed to shift. And it did over time, but the immediate problem was how we were selling and distributing what we had. So the shift was like, instead of hiring more salespeople, to knock on more doors and investing like a lot of money in marketing upfront, we went to other direction entirely. We stopped treating partners like a side channel and made them a primary engine. So all this like post providers, integration platforms, technology operators, marketing agency, the people already embedded inside the restaurant chains. But more than that, we didn't just integrate with them technically. We turned them into like real advocates of our solution. So they were not just passing leads. We were recommending us because our product made their offering stronger. And we cut costs hard, but strategically protected what was working, cut what was not. And the story here is how we landed our first enterprise customer outside our home country. And it was like 2018 or 2019. And it was like Papa John's. And the proof came with it. Papa John's UAE. They closed this deal together with our post partner in the region. And Papa John's is a like huge brand, multi-country franchise, top 10 global QSR brand, 5,500 locations worldwide. And we had never worked with the company at that scale, and we did not sell to them directly. Our partner did the introduction. We brought the product and the expertise, and we just closed the deal together. And the deal became like the template for us. It expanded to Papa John's in other countries like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bulgaria, eventually like 10 plus regional operation, one relationship, one model, multiple markets. So the turnaround was that we just stopped asking how to raise more money and started asking how do we build something that doesn't need it. And that shift is what changed like the trajectory.
Good stuff. Okay, so then what were the key milestones that turned out LoyaltyPlant from a struggling company into a global enterprise business? From the first major client to scaling across 30 countries, you mentioned Papa John's being a big one. There's a spectrum there of it, what you went through. Tell me about those milestones.
If I had to pick one milestone, I believe all the people in the company would expect me to say Papa John's. And yes, that was really huge. It was like the door opening deal for us. But the real shift started before the deal. It was like the decision to build the model itself. Like Papa John's was just the first big proof point, but the changes that made it possible were already happening. So it was not a list of milestones. It was like one model, this like partnership enterprise model, and then a series of proof points that kept building on each other. So it started with like this pivot in 2018, shift from direct sales to partner-led go-to-market. Externally, almost nothing to show. Internally, like foundations being laid. Then this Papa John's, first real proof point, enterprise brand, partnership channel, it will give us confidence in the template. After that, COVID, unexpected accelerator. I'd say restaurant desperately needed direct digital channels, no aggregators, no third party. It was like a real work between the restaurant and aggregators. And we'd already built the infrastructure for direct engagement. So just new clients came to us. After that, like in 21st, 23rd, growth kicks in. The partner model just starts working region after region, MENA, Europe, CIS countries, like it was like 25 new markets in 5 years with a lean team, very lean team, and no new external investment. And after that, like enterprise validation happened, the proof under a microscope, this getting through this KFC, Subway, Wendy's, Dunkin's, RFP and compliance audits, like these processes are very intense. Security reviews, legal, IT integration, pilot evaluations, I don't know, like passing them isn't just a sale. It's like proof your product and organization are world class. And today we serve like thousands of restaurants in more than 35 countries, working with some of the biggest brands in QSR. Brands I personally eat at, that still feels surreal for me. So the real milestone was not any single deal. It was like the moment we realized the model was repeatable, that what worked in UAE will work in the UK, in the US, in MENA, in Europe. with a different partner, but with the same logic.
Excellent. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Your coding agents have access to your code base. Maybe you even connected other tools via MCPs. But access doesn't mean context. Agents can't reason across MCPs. They don't know your architectural decisions, your team's patterns, or why the API was shaped the way it is. So agents look in the wrong place and deliver bad outputs. Then you spend time correcting. More loops, more tokens. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. So this will be interesting because you've worked a lot across different regions, right? US, UK, MENA, Europe, and CIS. What did you learn about scaling the same type of product across very different markets? And what doesn't translate between all of them?
To be honest, geography has its own challenges and every market is different. But the harder lesson for us was about segments, specifically what happens when your product evolves beyond the entire customer type. Let me explain. For years, LoyaltyPlant growth came from SMBs. Lots of clients, smaller tickets, simple mechanics like loyalty card, cashback, punch cards, basic discounts. It worked. Clients wanted an app. They could afford one on the SaaS model. The product felt innovative, like everything was good. But enterprise changed the rules completely. Enterprise marketers are smart and demanding. They want control groups. They want smart marketing. They want AI-driven campaigns, gamifications, ROI tracking, like all this stuff. And they are not just buying software. They're buying expertise, customer success, a partner who understands their business. So that's a much higher price point. So the challenge for us was actually as the product evolved for enterprise, SMB clients started getting less attention naturally. Not because we stopped caring, SMB clients still get value. We love them, but the product grew beyond what many of them really need. Enterprise is now the majority of our new sales, and SMB has become less than half of revenue, I believe. That's not abandonment. It's a natural shift, but it's worth naming honestly. Then you commit to enterprise as like a market. You make a choice, even if you don't make it consciously. I don't know. But on actual geographies thing, what differs is like partner ecosystem, because there's some local players, some international players who are working on markets, the regulatory environment, fiscalization rules, stuff like that, some legal, like concerns policies, like we adapted product a lot, but local integrations, for example, payment providers, we need them for our e-commerce engine to do timeline payments, for example, delivery partners, stuff like that. And also the pace of decision making. For example, MENA moves fast when the right person says yes, but Europe, man, has more process. The core product travels well, I'd say, but the sales motion and the integration layer have to adapt every time. The market for us, the market that does not translate is not a geography. It's a segment. So we learn that they learn that the hard way, and we're still navigating the consequences.
Sure, that's challenging for sure. Okay, let's flip into some more go-to-market. You built new go-to-market strategies that now generate over 90% of new sales. What did you change compared to a classic SaaS sales playbook, and why did it work in enterprise QSR?
The classic SaaS playbook assumes your buyer is actively looking for a solution. In enterprise QSR, they are not. They're being approached by 50 vendors who all say the same thing. You don't win by being louder. You win by being already trusted. So in enterprise restaurant chains, there's no single decision maker. Marketing, IT, operation, regional directors, sometimes the franchisee, everyone has a say. The standard inbound, outbound, them contract close cycle does not map to that reality. And what we changed, instead of showing up as a vendor knocking on doors, we positioned as a extensive of technology partners already embedded in those restaurants. For example, when a post provider said, you should talk to LoyaltyPlant, that conversation starts at a completely different trust level. So that's the first thing. The second shift, consultative selling, not demo-driven selling. Enterprise marketers are smart. They've seen every pitch deck. What works is speaking their language. How do you prove ROI? How do you measure real impact on customer behavior? What does that data actually show? So you come in like a doctor who has already studied the symptoms, not a salesperson with a brochure. And that combination, like partner distribution plus consultative selling, is what drives 80 or 90+% of our new sales now. And in enterprise B2B, distribution beats product. You definitely need the right product, but if you're not inside the right relationships, nobody will ever see it.
Okay, let's go into some market reality today, right? Margins are shrinking, aggregators dominate, and costs are rising. That's just the sort of the playing field you're in right now. What's actually happening on the ground right now in QSR and food tech, and how should companies adapt?
Here's what I see when I talk to QSR leaders today. Almost every established chain already has an app, a loyalty program, a CRM platform, analytics, dashboards, everything. The digital infrastructure is there, but 6 to 12 months after launch, the pattern is the same. Active users level off, aggregators still own a huge share of digital orders, and real revenue impact is hard to prove. They have activity, but they don't have impact and result. Market today, first of all, it's like the aggregator trap. Aggregators gave restaurant digital distribution, but took the customer relationship. The restaurant paid 30% of order to no commission per order and ended up zero data on who just bought from them. Now brands are trying to get that relationship back, but they are doing it from a position of dependency, and most of them are going about it in the wrong way. So the first mistake, launching an app just to have one. We have an app becomes the goal. Nobody asks, what does this app actually change about customer behavior? What journey does it create? Without a designed customer journey, onboarding, habit formation, reactivation, the app is just branded ordering screen, like a vending machine with your logo on it. The second mistake, confusing discounts with loyalty. Most brands still build their loyalty programs around cashback, promo codes, mass discount. What that actually teaches customers is to come back only when the price is right. So you are not building loyalty, you are building price sensitivity. So the brands winning on loyalty have moved to experience-led mechanics. So gamification, status progressions, surprise moments, personalized rewards, and everything should feel earned rather than bought. And the third mistake is obsessing over features instead of outcomes. I see a lot of brands spend 6 months negotiating which specific feature a platform must have, features they will probably never fully use. So while completely ignoring whether their customer journey makes any sense, technology is only useful as a strategy behind it. And what actually works in QSR specifically is like design the customer journey first, invest in your people on the ground, train and motivate your staff at every location to be part of this digital experience. Communicate value clearly to users so they actually want to engage with your loyalty program. And again, human interaction still matters enormously. And then, yes, use data, use AI to personalize and automate at scale, but let it serve a strategy and not replace it. So and also don't pour money into online ads if your in-store team can't explain why the app matters. I believe on the market, most QSR brands don't have a technology problem right now. They have a strategy problem dressed up as a technology problem. So once you understand that, you know exactly what to fix.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me about a decision that you got wrong, right? As entrepreneurs, as builders, we make mistakes all the time, right? But tell me about when you got wrong and what did it cost the business and what did it teach you as a leader?
Oh, the biggest lesson wasn't about a strategy or a market. I still believe it. It was about people, specifically about what matters most when you're putting a team together. At different points in our journey, especially when we had budget and felt pressure to grow fast, we hired for experience. We brought in people with impressive track records, senior titles, years in the industry. On paper, it was perfect. But what we kept learning over and over is that experience without ownership is a problem. In a growth stage company, you need people who take things personally, who see a gap and feel it without being asked. So who sell not because they have the perfect feature set, but because they believe in what they're building and can transfer that belief in the customer. That's a soft skill, but it's the hardest one to hire for. And we had cases where their experienced salespeople spent their time asking for product changes instead of selling. Like they wanted like the perfect deck, the perfect feature list, the perfect setup. Meanwhile, Vas, for example, our CEO was closing deals with like the same product because he approached every conversation as a problem solving session, like a doctor, not a future demo. So also the world is changing fast too right now. The skills that matter 5 years ago aren't the same today. AI is helping us draft proposal, respond to RFPs faster, handles parts of the sales process that used to take days. Traditional SDR roles are shrinking. So that says constant is ownership. That state constant is ownership, curiosity, and adaptability, I believe. So the things you can't automate. So the cost of getting this wrong isn't just money. It's time, it's the energy your team spends managing people who don't fit. It's the trust you lose internally, then the senior hire doesn't deliver. So it's all about the values. So values are not a soft HR thing. They're a real business risk. Then someone doesn't share your values, every interaction costs more than it should. Then we do, everything moves faster. We just stopped chasing resumes and started hiring like for ownership and fit. And the business got better after that.
Gotcha. Okay. Max, last question. So what advice would you give founders building B2B products for traditional industries today, right? Especially around scale, partnership, and staying relevant?
The most dangerous thing you can do in traditional industry is assume that being right about the problem is enough. It's not. Find one segment first and make it happy. Don't try to serve everyone. We learned this the hard way. SMB and enterprise look like the same market from the outside, but they're completely different games with different rules, different expectations, different economics. Pick one, go deep, prove it works. If you try to stretch across segments too early, you'll end up building a product that's too complex for the smaller customers and not focused enough for the bigger ones. So be ready to let go of a segment if that's the business needs. Also, build with your partners. not around them. In traditional industries, the real bottleneck is almost never your product. It's trust and access. The people who already have trust inside your target customers are your most valuable asset. So don't treat them as a referral channel. It's too simple. Make them a part of your go-to-market from day one. And hire for ownership, especially early on. A person with a founder mindset and 3 years of experience will outperform a polished enterprise rep with 15 years at your stage almost every time. Skills change fast. AI is rewriting that salespeople need to know what marketers need to do. What doesn't change is whether someone takes responsibility and figures things out. And about enterprise, maybe. Enterprise takes longer than you think, but it's more durable than anything else. Once you're inside the global brand's tech stack, you've passed the compliance process, you have a position that's very hard to displace. So the patience to get there is the real test. Don't build for everyone, build for something specific. Make them successful and let that success pull you forward. That's how companies that last actually get built.
Well, that's fantastic advice. Max, thanks for being on the show today. It was a pleasure chatting with you and learning about all the things you've gone through as a startup founder and most recently with LoyaltyPlant and your go-to-market strategies and all the successes you've had, the things you've learned, and what your advice would be to founders. I think is super valuable information. So thanks for sharing it. And thanks for being on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Max has run the gamut on startup lessons to share, from go-to-market plans to mistakes to enterprise growth, and the differences between regions. My big takeaway is this: if you keep your head down like Max, you will find your way through the difficult decisions and paths in taking on an industry. If you'd like to connect with Max, check the show notes for all the appropriate links. And thanks again for listening.
You compare prices when shopping for flights, hotels, cars. So why not small business insurance? At Simply Business, we'll show you policies that fit your business and a range of prices to help you save. Who knew buying insurance could be so simple? Visit simplybusiness.com for your free quote today.
Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love. It helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
If you're a podcast host, listen up, this one's for you. My name is Allie Jackson. I'm the host of Finding Mr. Height, a dating and relationship podcast that I've been doing for 4 years now, sharing my positive and practical approach to dating that's built on my own life experience. And I wanted to share another experience that I've had, my secret behind monetizing my show. It's called Red Circle, and I was just telling my colleague about how much I love their platform. With Red Circle, not only am I getting a seamless hosting experience, but I also love the support I receive in ad sales. It's not just typical ad sales either. It's targeted opportunities based on my show and my life. And the platform is super simple. You just set your preferences and Red Circle matches you with sponsors that align with your show. You can vet every opportunity and their platform gives you great analytics. More recently too, my Red Circle team has brought me opportunities outside of my podcast on social media to really augment the podcast partnerships, bring them full circle. I just can't recommend them enough. If you want to give it a try, go to redcircle.com to get your free trial. That's redcircle.com for a free trial.